Okay, so thank you all for agreeing to participate in my information session on the seal of biliteracy. So I have a presentation prepared, and if there are any questions while I'm going through it, feel free to stop me or ask any questions, and there will also be time for questions also. Mhm. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the seal of biliteracy and the world language immersion and English language development aspects of it. So the objectives for today's presentation are to understand the benefits and purpose of the seal of biliteracy, identify seal of biliteracy requirements and potential student candidates, learn about the world language and immersion assessment procedures, learn about the medals and certificates that are available, and recognize how the seal of biliteracy can benefit your school's report card. The first thing that I want to do is share a video that was created as a promotional presentation for the Seal of Biliteracy in Prince George's County. So it's a couple minute video. So here we go.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and biliteracy is my superpower.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and biliteracy is my superpower.
Hi, my name is Manuel. Biliteracy is my superpower because it allows me to connect with my family and other people.
The Seal of Biliteracy is a wonderful program for students in high school.
It is a seal that appears on the diploma and on the transcript.
For my students, whether they're native speakers or not native speakers, they have to prove their proficiency levels in 2 languages. Did you speak smoothly, or did you have to keep taking pauses? To have them to increase their proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking makes them more valuable to the world. If you're actual interpreters, then maybe you'll have this vocabulary that you can use and go back and reflect on.
The Seal of Biliteracy is a recognition given to students who demonstrate an ability to speak, write, read, and listen in English and another language.
We are such a diverse county that, there are so many languages, cultures represented, and we need to celebrate that. So when the students, the ELD students that are here, we don't want them to forget their culture and their language, because that's who they are.
Always embrace your culture. Heritage is beautiful. It's really beautiful, and it's unique. Each culture is unique, and I feel like it's important to not only connect with it, but also embrace and teach and know that that's your culture.
I think it's a great accomplishment. I think it's really unique that I can not only have more opportunities, but also the fact that I can have it on like my transcript, for example, and the fact that I can speak both languages. I can communicate with twice as many people as, let's say, just speak one language. And it opens up the door for so many more opportunities and so many more things in general.
We want parents and people to know that having another language is an asset. They can go forth with greater opportunities in employment, in education.
When you start jotting down these vocabulary words, make sure that you keep this paper. It's open to everybody. For example, one of the students, Stephanie. Stephanie is a native Spanish speaker, but when she was in 9th grade, she decided to take American Sign Language.
I'm proud that I earned the seal of biliteracy because it shows that all my hard work is not for nothing.
To see her really makes me proud, makes me happy for her and for all those other students that make it.
When you study for that test, you are studying for this grammar, the syntax, that vocabulary. So you're preparing yourself, and on your own, you're improving your skills.
It's nice to see that success. So I've seen that success, this past year with one of our alumni who graduated, and she's using it.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Angie Castellano. I will be your interpreter for this session. I wanted to be an interpreter because of my family. I feel like every job I wanted before, had thought of wanting before, it really did tie into my family, what is going on with them or how I could help them.
At the end of the year before graduation, they get a beautiful gold medal.
It is not only for those who speak another language already, but for English speakers that are willing to go to the educational effort to learn another language.
Hopefully more students will take advantage of the program. We're opening up to more languages, and so I think that's really going to help the students and make them feel proud of their language and their culture.
The seal of biliteracy is really a way that students can see themselves as global citizens of the world.
It's really important to keep our culture with us wherever we go.
You can do it, and you can use that power you have in multilingualism to help others.
It really is good to see the accomplishments that students are making and the good things that we're doing for our students. I think the Seal by Literacy is one of those things one of the good things that we do in the county that we don't get enough coverage for, and we don't get enough positive things on there. So let's take a look at some of the things to see what you know or what some of the misconceptions you may have about the Seal by Literacy. So, let's take a look at, if you want to just raise your hand, yes, or thumbs up or thumbs down. If we look at the Seal by Literacy as part of my school's Maryland report card, is that true or false? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I see 2 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down, 2 undecided. Any guesses? One more guess. Miss Lua, you have a guess? Up or down? Up. So it is part of the Maryland report card, and it is one of the parts for the academic curriculum. Let me get the terminology right. I'm going to mess it up. It is the well-rounded curriculum. That is where it is part of. You can get credit for well-rounded curriculum if you earn the Seal of Biliteracy. Seal by Literacy has a math, English, and world language test requirement. Up or down?
Math, English, test.
What makes it down for those of you that have put it down?
The math portion?
Correct. There is no math portion
Yeah,
on
math,
the Seal of Biliteracy. The World Language and Immersion offices pay for world language exams.
Not sure.
It's fair. It is true. The World Language and Immersion office pay for the world language exams.
Not all of them.
Not all, yes. We're trying to get them to pay for more, but
Yeah,
yes,
because we paid for some of them.
Yeah. A bilingual student received the Seal of Biliteracy automatically.
Mm,
That is true. It is false. They do not receive it automatically. They still need to meet the requirements of the seal through the state. The seal of biliteracy can earn students college credit and job opportunities.
Um, job opportunity, yes.
This one is kind of a trick question
Mhm.
because it
Only
definitely helps
credit.
students get job opportunities. But
Mhm.
college credit
That's
is
right.
it's mixed. So there are states that if you get the seal of biliteracy, you automatically get college credit for doing that. Maryland, however, they do not offer credit, but they often offer placement. So if you get a certain score on the test, you can get a placement into a higher level, but they do not offer direct credit. And so it's that. And so there are schools that students can go to if they choose out of state schools or some private schools, they can get credit, but not every school do you get credit. But most schools give you some type of placement or recognition of it. And so that is true. So, what exactly is the seal of biliteracy? So, it is a state approved endorsement that recognizes proficiency in English and one or more additional languages. It ends up on your high school transcript. It demonstrates language skills for college and career. It also strengthens college applications by demonstrating success in language study beyond the basic high school requirement. So I'm sure everybody in here knows the high school requirement. One of the possible completers with languages is 2 years of the language. And so in order to be bilingual and biliterate, you need much more than the 2 years of the language. Any questions on what the seal is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have a question. So you said that is on the Maryland report card? Nobody told me
So
about
it is
that.
correct. So currently, all 50 states and the District of Columbia offer it as a state. It is a state approved endorsement in every state. However, every state has their own requirements as to what the cut scores are, what languages they accept, or different scores. Some states have a high level and a low level, depending on your level of fluency. But Maryland and the next slide will go over what the requirements are for Maryland. But it
Mhm.
is a state approved and it's only public schools.
Mhm.
And so one thing that's interesting about that often affects our immersion students, for example, they will start an immersion program in Prince George's County and then decide they want to go private. If you go
Mhm.
private, you are not eligible for the seal of biliteracy. You have to
Mhm.
graduate from a public school in order to get the seal of biliteracy on your report card.
Mhm. So what is the cut-off score?
We're gonna talk about that next.
Okay. All right.
And so next we have the requirements. So there are two basic requirements for the get earn a seal of biliteracy. One, there is an English language arts requirement, and the other is a world language requirement. The English language arts requirement, it used to be that you just had to pass the high school assessment in English. However, this year they just modified and it was just released the new requirements, which are here. And so these are the new requirements. And so what they decided to do and what they added was there is now a WIDA score cut score in order to get the seal of biliteracy. So this is great news for all of our ELD students because they used to have to do the same requirement of passing the MCAP, but now if they get a 4.0 or above in high school, then they automatically meet the requirements. So they no longer have to do both of exiting ESOL and passing the test, which is a good thing, except that we have the potential to be having ELD students that do not exit get the diploma because you need the 4.5 to exit, but you can get the seal of biliteracy without it. So that's kind of a interesting thing that they've created. But the fact that they can earn the seal now with the with their WIDA score of 4.0 or better is good. So any of your students that have a 4.0 or higher in high school can get the seal of biliteracy as long as they pass the world language part. They also added some of these other English requirements. So if they don't get, they can do the PSAT, they can do the SAT, English, AP English exam, IB English exam. And so those are additional requirements. But the most common ones that our students would be eligible for would be the MCAP and the WIDA access scores. And that they've been talking about this for a couple of years, but they finally approved it and did that. So that's a really good thing that they can pass with their access score. The world language part component, they have to demonstrate intermediate high in all the domains of language. So they have to be able to read, write, listen, and speak at an intermediate high level. And the state offers probably 50 different tests that they accept as acceptable for those scores. And so they have to pass all 4 domains at the intermediate high level. The most common test that we use in Prince George's County is the stamp test and the Apple test. Those are the 2 most common ones that we use. The immersion students take the DELF and the DELE, which are the French and Spanish national tests that come out of Spain and France. But the most common tests that we use are the stamp tests. And you can see here the stamp one, they offer it in multiple languages. And so you can see the different tests and what languages are offered by each test. The Apple test offers, 84 different language, so every language that we do, we can test the students in. There are about, if we were to systemically test all of the students that speak another language, there are about 200 students that speak some of our more limited languages or smaller languages, some African languages that there is no test for. However, Maryland does offer they say that they will find an equivalent test for you if we get students that are interested. So it's a little bit more complicated and we've got to work with the state to get it, but we can get every student tested. But the vast majority of our students qualify through Apple or stamp tests. Additionally, they also accept the IB test, which is pretty common in many schools, and the AP tests are also accepted as passing scores. So if you get a 3 in AP test, those count also as passing. And then students, the other good part about the world language component is that students can begin testing in 8th grade. And so that's why the first phase of my study was 8th grade, because in middle school, they can start passing the test. So you can have students that already come to you in high school having passed the world language part. So then all they have to do is pass the English assessment, which also means that if you have a student in high school, a freshman in 9th grade, if they took the Spanish test in middle school and they're at a 4.0, we can already put it on their transcript for when they graduate. It's already there. So you, Dr. Nankin, you can have several students that in 9th grade have the potential to already have it because they've got above a 4.0. And if they happen to be at a middle school that offered the language test, they could be finished. And so that is pretty exciting. When they announced the English requirement, the access requirement, we were kind of thinking that they would offer the same thing, that 8th grade would count, but the policy that they promoted or that they put out says that their access score has to be in high school. And so that, any of our students that exit in elementary school or middle school, they can't use their access as a requirement because if they finished it before high school. So they would have to take the MCAP test. And so that's a minor thing that will reduce our numbers slightly. But if they've exited, we've all seen the data that shows that our students that have exited, they score higher on those tests anyways. And so it may not be that big of a concern. But those are the two requirements. Every student has to meet a world language requirement, which is intermediate high, and the language arts, which now includes WIDA and MCAP is the two primary ones that our students would get. Um, and that also includes sign language, which is not necessarily a spoken language. So that is also, we do have students that have earned it in sign language. Any questions about the requirements? Okay.
No, but it's great.
Yes, I mean, this year,
Exciting.
the state has done a lot to really expand who is eligible and make
So,
it accessible.
so if a ESOL student like an ML score 4.0, but the student still need to take a world language STEM
They still would
test.
have to take the world language test. Yeah, and that's
But
where
it's not STEM. STEM is they are taking STEM tests right now, so it's STEM is not included. I look at that list.
no, it's not. So it would have to, oh, the stamp test, yes. The stamp
Is
test,
it
yes. The
included?
stamp test, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
the
right.
stamp test would be, I thought you said STEM. Stamp test,
STEM.
yes, is
Yeah.
included.
Mm,
Correct.
okay.
Correct. And
They're gonna
so
put it right now.
as soon as they can pass that, and that's one thing that I am kind of advocating for, that we start testing as soon as we can, so that way, if they miss it by a couple of points, we can figure out how to get them to that. Is it a tutoring session? If it's Chinese, is it a tutoring session with you to catch them up? Or is it, I believe that many of our students, if we even put them on Rosetta Stone, that might be enough to get them over the hump of what they need to pass the test. And so, but that's also, and I know everybody in this room knows, not every student who is a native speaker of the language will have the ability to pass and could be considered bilingual. And so, but I think a lot of our students, if we give them that little push and we give them that extra training, they have the strong basis that, most students do not. Most of our students do not. And so, MLs are perfect candidates for this program and for the Seal of Biliteracy. So it is aligned with our district priorities of supporting equity and inclusion. It aligns with career and college readiness goals. It contributes to the Maryland report card scores. It supports PCEL Standard 3 of equity, cultural responsiveness. And there is also a lot of information and requirements in Pillar 4 of the blueprint under the ELL work group, and getting that and expanding access and expanding opportunities for ELL students. And so there we are. It's definitely clearly aligned with our district priorities. Why does the Seal of Biliteracy matter? Because it honors a student's linguistic diversity and cultural heritage. We often do not acknowledge the richness of our students' heritage, and this helps do that. It enhances college applications and employment prospects. It promotes global competence and cultural understanding, and it contributes to our school's performance metrics. So it does have a lot of benefits, not only for the student, but for the school and for the system. And so this is the benefits for students. It recognizes language skills and cultural knowledge. It gives them potential credit for placement. It gives them a competitive edge in college admissions, enhanced employment opportunities. And then there is also this nice graphic that shows the different cognitive domains that are affected by it. So we all know that multilingualism affects executive function, and for socioculture, it helps you understand other worlds. It gives you increased intellectual flexibility. So it has a variety of benefits being multilingual. What's the impact on the Maryland Post report card readiness for post-secondary education? So it contributes to the readiness for post-secondary section. And that high schools are given credit for the number of students who receive the Seal of Biliteracy. So for the well-rounded curriculum, I don't know if all of you know the well-rounded curriculum, there are many different programs and different things that students can do to get credit for that. And one of them is the Seal of Biliteracy. And so for schools that have large ELD populations and ELL populations, that is probably the easiest way for you to get credit for that section. And so when we look at our actual report cards, and I pulled all three of your report cards so that you can see what it is. And so if we look at Roosevelt, this year in the newest report cards that were issued, Roosevelt got 5 out of 5 for the credit for well-rounded curriculum. And then when you pull out the multilingual learners, you also got 5 out of 5. I'm guessing that the county probably figured out how to calculate this better than it has in the past and give credit for the other things that people have done. But back in last year, before this year getting a 5 out of 5, this year you had 100%. But in 2024, you had 79.9% get that. And so you got 1 out of the 5 points. And the and then the multilingual population got 39.1% out of that. So I'm sorry, 3 out of 5 for all students and 1 out of 5 for the multilingual students. So you went up from 1 out of 5 for multilinguals to all 5 points. And so the leap this year is great. And so, but last year you had 3 out of 5 for the whole school for that. When we look at the international school, you also this year went up to 5, which that in both the all students and the multilingual learners. But the year before, in 2024, you had 83.8% and 79.5%. And so that was from a 3.5 for the whole school to 3 out of 5. And so a lot of what my thought pattern in doing this study and and my logic was that by increasing the multilingual learners participation, that these scores would do up. I think that was one of the things that has been done because you're already at a 5, which is really good. But I think we can still do great things for our multilingual learners. Any questions on your report card? I don't know if all of you have
So
looked
I
at
think
this
it's the
level.
Mr. Haynes, I think it's the
Yeah.
access that we want the syllabi literacy for. So the
Yes.
credit, I can tell you because we just had our principals meeting. So the thing is with the credit, so you get credit for that if the students meet the entrance requirements for Maryland, not if they could actually get in, but if they take the courses they need to get into Maryland. And with the new graduation requirements, with the 4 years, they have to pass 4 years of math now, and one of them has to be beyond algebra 2. That's sort of what got everybody like the max points because
Got
like
it.
they wouldn't have graduated. But I think it's the access piece. I'm just actually verifying. 'Cause I know at our school where we kind of get stuck is we don't have any CTE programs. So if our students don't do the syllabi literacy, like we're really losing like a lot of points in that
A
area. And I
lot of
even
points
know
for
like
that.
at the traditional schools, like Roosevelt, in many cases, like the students are taking so many extra like ELD courses that
Yep.
their schedule may not allow for them to be in a CTE program because they have to have like half their schedule could be taken up by CTE courses to towards the end of their high school career.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where we benefit with the syllabi literacy is in that area, especially for those kids we cannot get into CTE programs, or even dual enrollment.
Yeah, and that's what I was
Yeah.
very surprised that the scores jumped so high. But yes, that is exactly it. We definitely need access. We need to offer our students, our ELD students, the opportunity that normally they would not receive or they don't know about. Because if students are not in a world language or in the immersion program, they probably don't know about the syllabi literacy. And so that's what the purpose of my study is to see how, when we provide information and communication about what it is that going to increase our numbers? And so, and then we were also supposed to have a teacher from Parkdale, and Parkdale's in the same situation. They went up to 100% this year, but last year they were 58.2% for all students and 44.9% for the
Yeah.
multilingual
So
students.
yeah, I believe it's the access to a well-rounded curriculum which speaks to the school quality indicator, at least
Got
on
it.
the high school side. Yeah.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because that's where we
Something
are losing
definitely
points.
changed this year that the 3 schools that I looked at, no school
Yeah.
had 5 points in this section in previous years.
Right. I think if you look at the access, though, the school quality and student success piece, the access to a well-rounded curriculum, those numbers are going to be lower. And I think that's where this could help out.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
so excited to see the data. I mean, my ELD team, world language team here. We don't see that in our, with faculty meeting, we analyze the data. But did you, Dr. Liu, everybody, did you see this data like that's exciting to know. Nobody talk about this. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to broadcast
Absolutely.
about this. I'm going to broadcast about this.
That's what we need. That's exactly what we need. So some of our data that there are in the last 3 years, we've gone up the number of seals that we give. So 277 in 2023, 328 in 24, 464 in 25. Now Montgomery County gives over 1,000. So there's no reason why we cannot give over 1,000 too. If we promote the program, we can give just as many as Montgomery County because our students linguistically and culturally are identical to Montgomery County's. And so the languages that we issued in the last year were Spanish, French, Italian, American Sign Language, Arabic, Mandarin, and Pashto. And so when you look at these languages, the Spanish, French, Italian, ASL, Arabic, Mandarin, those are languages that we teach in our world language program. So, those are students that may have taken the language, they may be native speakers, but Pashto is not taught in any of our schools. So we had an ELD student or a exited student that speaks Pashto, and they earned the seal of biliteracy without it being taught. So that's an accomplishment. And there are several other student languages that we offer that we have speakers of in our system that if we push them to take the test and figure out how to offer them support, they can also get the exam. It doesn't have to be the languages that we teach. It can be the languages that are part of our students at Heritage, which I think is pretty cool to think of that, we didn't teach Pashto in any of our schools, and we got a student that earned the seal in Pashto. So that's pretty exciting. If you are a world language student, you can begin testing in 8th grade. There are multiple testing windows throughout the year. Most of the tests are computer-based, and the results are typically available in 2 to 3 weeks. The immersion program and the new supervisor of world language, she's really pushing communication with ELD teachers and all teachers so that they can get students offer the test to students that may not be world language students, but that have that ability. And so she's really pushed that to make sure that all students have access to it. There's obviously a limited amount of funds, but she has pushed to offer more students to get those languages because some of the languages, the average test, if we use the Stamp or Apple test, the average test is about $20. But some of the languages, it can go as high as $150 to test some of the languages. And so obviously the most of our languages being Spanish and French, that's being our two largest language populations, we can test pretty relatively cheaply is not the right word, but relatively cost effective for those tests. But there are the languages that require more tests. And so, if we can get money to pay for those, then we're even in better shape. The immersion program, they also start testing in 8th grade, and they continue to test their students until they pass. And so they also offer, they take the STAMP test in 8th grade, but then when they get to high school, they start taking the DELF and the LA test, which are the ones that are offered through the Spanish and French embassies. And so it's a little bit more of a prestigious test. And that test is more than $20. That test, I think, is about $100 a test. And same with the AP test. If the students qualify through the AP test, it's been a while since I was in the did AP testing, but it's probably over $100 now per AP test. I'm not sure. And so that's a more expensive test. But if we can get them tested in STAMP and pay $20 a test, that makes it more affordable for the school system to be able to pay for those tests. Um, the other thing that the immersion program does is that if you pass the test in 8th grade, they will give you a certificate that you can take to your high school. If you leave the immersion program and you go to another specialty program or just back to your comprehensive school, they will give you a certificate that you can give to your guidance department that says you passed, you met the language requirement. So then all you have to do is meet the other requirement and you will still get the seal. So they do a good job of tracking their students even when they leave the program. The English Language Development Office um, is developing a process. We had worked on a potential plan to help get more students tested, but then the government cuts came. And so it kind of got put on pause. Hopefully, eventually we'll be able to, when we have some more stability in the Department of Education and in our funds, we will get that and be able to test more ELD students directly. But that's kind of on hold. So we really need to communicate with the World Language Office to get as many, or some schools are able to find funds to pay for a limited amount of tests on their own. I've done some research to see if like community schools, if that can be paid for out of community school funds. Um, it definitely is a little bit more complicated, but not impossible. And you know that, Dr. Nankin, it's not impossible, but it's definitely more complicated to pay for that
Yeah,
many students.
anything. Well, the other thing we have been doing is communicating with the World Language Office because not every school uses their
Uses all their, correct,
yeah. So that's
correct.
how we
I
were able
understand.
to get some extra tests.
Yeah.
And then like I said, we did pay for some of them and it's fine. Like it's we don't have
Yeah.
a very big school, so
And that's exactly it. And that, but I think ideally, if we really wanted to expand this program, if we were to start testing everybody in 8th grade, like I said, then we could work on how do we help them meet, those students that are just short of passing, how can we support them to do that? I mean, I think we have what, 3 or 4 languages in this room now that, there are school systems when I was doing research, there are school systems that the language teachers, world language teachers have a class a day where they work on language skills no matter what your language is, and they help them even if they don't speak the language. We can teach them the skills and we can provide the software, we can provide the resources that they can do that even if we don't speak the language we teach that actual language. We can help them do that. And so we could definitely do that in Prince George's County. It's just a matter of developing the program and doing that. So some of the strategies to increase CELA biliteracy participation is to early identification of potential candidates, disseminating information to teachers, counselors and administrators, develop an application form for parents so that they can submit that to the World Language Department or to the guidance department so that we can find out what students are interested, encourage students to study higher levels of language, informational sessions for students and families. And this is the key is collaboration between all 3 offices, ELD, World Language and Content teachers, and then celebration of the recipients by giving them awards. And you saw the medals in the video. The World Language provides those medals. And then I created an FAQ that can be put on all of our websites for the different programs that has um, all anything you want to know, any question you want to know about the seal of biliteracy. Um, I have it in this document. And so there are general information questions, eligibility requirements, the application process, testing, recognition, additional resources. And so this could be shared more widely. It does need to be revised with the new English requirement, but that is a super quick process to do that revision. Um, and so all of those things are things that we can do to increase the seal of biliteracy participation. And so I'm just kind of thinking and just kind of talking if anybody has any answers to these questions, what are you doing to currently recruit or identify students for the Seal of Biliteracy? Is anybody
Yes.
doing? Yes.
Yes. So Miss Bynum, our world languages department chair, she and I we work together, but because she was out several years, like intermittently because of the babies, So we didn't really know about, the prerequisites and everything. I didn't even know that it was on the Maryland report. I'm sorry. I want that data to bring. We're going to go to SPPs with our principal to do a presentation. SPP meetings coming up for high schools. We're going to go, and I would like to have that set of data. You say it's from the Maryland report card. I'm going to boast about our MLs. I didn't even know that. So I'm thinking what we're doing right now. I have a to-do list to help identify the students because so I just got an email last week said that the students are getting the stamp test. So if they fail the stamp test and do not meet the requirements, the ML I'm talking about only my MLs. I would like to double check, cross check their MCAP scores. You say the MCAP score, if they score like a proficiency, like a certain proficiency, like proficient, then even they fail, even they didn't score like excess score 4.0 or did not meet the standards of STEM, they still can, if they have the proficient for MCAP 10, they still can have this
They
opportunity.
still can get it. They pass the
So
test. Absolutely.
yeah,
And
so
that,
this is on my list. I have, so I would like to, now I have the knowledge. Now this is better than anything else. I have the knowledge about how to identify the students because you count on the world languages teachers. They don't have, sometimes they, of course I share the access data when I got it, so not everybody is cross-checking. Not everybody is cross-checking. So the cross-checking part, I would like to, monitor that, what I mean? So this is something that I'm trying to help with.
May I share one thing about the biliteracy, the challenge? So when I was teaching Chinese in this county for about 13 years, and and for one of the like the cluster, and from elementary school, Penn Branch Elementary School, they have immersion program, and then they will go to Greenbelt Middle School, and they studied we have world language Mandarin Chinese and immersion Chinese. So those are two different programs. And then when it come to high school, and they will fit into Roosevelt, and Roosevelt has no Chinese program at all. Many of the GT program student, they are the high achieving students. So for instance, in Greenbelt, I think I had 150 students on average every year. But when they graduate from 8th grade, they have nowhere nowhere to go. So this is it's a huge, and I cannot emphasize enough. It's a huge loss for the students and a huge waste of money and energy. So many of my students, they are here in Roosevelt, and they will talk to me, and they forget the Chinese. They can speak a little bit, but they forgot most of it. They wanted to go to a Chinese program, but there's none. And then I think some of them ended up in Mr. Ha made share a little bit more. They ended up in uh, in different languages. It's like Korean language, and then they chose Spanish. And then some students, when I see them on campus, and they still, especially at the very beginning, and they say, "Wow, I'm so angry," or something like that. That's the term that they use. They're very angry that they have nowhere else to go for the language study. And some of the parents told me, and even before I came here, some of the parents began to, so they talked to me, and they began to have petition. They talked to some principals like Mr. McNeil, maybe at that time, and there was no result at all. So this is a real problem. We began to educate them from elementary school. Some of the immersion Chinese students became my students because they didn't want to continue with the immersion. They came to the Chinese program, and not necessarily higher than my regular students, I have to share because of some issues there. So my student, for instance, 1 year, an introduction class from the very beginning, zero knowledge. When they ended the first year, they could go to the restaurant and to place order for food in Chinese. They're very motivated in learning, but then after 1 year or two, they have to stop. So this is the issue that has to be addressed. Otherwise, our
With
students will
continuity,
be
it's
at a
definitely
huge
an issue.
disadvantage. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for listening. This is one
Oh,
of
no,
the
no,
things. Yeah.
absolutely. That is definitely an issue. Any
And
other
another
thing? Go ahead.
yeah, another thing, just very briefly, one of the students who is kind of a heritage student of Mandarin Chinese, and she approached me actually last year. She wanted to petition the principal to add AP Chinese at Eleanor Roosevelt. She even asked me, "Do you want to teach?" I said, "I'm an English teacher right now, but it's a good idea. And go ahead and talk to the principal to see what happened." I didn't follow up, so I didn't know what's going on. So we have very motivated students who want to continue to learn Chinese, but they have nowhere else to go.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Everybody else want to share or comment? Well, I thank you. You definitely, I hope that you gathered something from this presentation, found something new that you didn't know. And then I would also I put in the chat that I have a very brief exit ticket if you can fill that out for me. And then there is a final stage to my study, if you are available and interested, is a follow-up interview that is one-on-one, should take about 15 minutes. And that's the final stage. And so either later today or tomorrow, I'll send out the consent form for that. And if you happen to be available, I would appreciate it. But if not, being the holiday season and we're all busy and all that, I totally understand. But if you do happen to be available, that would be great. And I look forward to asking you, I think it's 8 brief questions about what you learned and about exactly what Ms. Liu you just shared about what else do you think we need to do differently um, in order to get more students to get the seal. And so I thank you very much. Are there any other final questions before I take up any more of your time? And
We are just I'm very appreciative that give us so much information that we have never heard before. Because my
and I
team
think a lot of it too,
my team here, did you hear that school
and I'm sure like Dr.
they were
Mencken,
talking
you
about
know a
other
lot because of your school, but I'm
yes,
guessing that many of our colleagues, principal colleagues, do not know about this program. And
yeah.
so
No, and I would even say, I don't know if you've reached out to assistant principals, because that may be part of it, is
they
that,
did. I did.
yeah, it's,
Yeah,
they're
I
kind of like the
included counselors.
gatekeepers. Because when I came into international, like the assistant principal who was here was kind of very against the sale of biliteracy. I mean, kind of what increased our numbers was we had a new assistant principal who has since left. It wasn't me, though, it was a whole situation. But anywho, he was coming from a school where he was like involved in it. So like between like his motivation and the world language department's motivation to make this happen, like we're able to make it happen. And
Yeah.
like a third of our students in like the last 2 graduating classes that have graduated with the seal of
Yep.
biliteracy.
Yeah, you guys have the largest number.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
international
this
schools have the
access is gonna,
largest. And
yeah.
then I think Roosevelt and Parkdale are the next two largest because you have the biggest world language programs. And so, but we focus only on the world language students. We don't focus in general on ELD students. And so, if we were to focus on all these students that have the language skills already, we could get so many more and get so much more. And, my biggest thing is Montgomery, we do so many good things, but we could actually be better than Montgomery County in this. There's no reason why we couldn't get over 1,000 kids a year to get the CO. And so, but not many students in many schools know about it. And so that's what kind of the purpose of this was. So I thank you. And I'll send one final request. And if you happen to be available, I will work around your schedule. If you have planning, as long as I'm not doing an observation, I can do the planning too, and I'll get it done. And that way I'll work around your schedule so that I can get it done. And hopefully we'll be able to increase this in future years in Prince George's County. So thank you again. Have
All
a
right.
wonderful
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
See you on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.